Hey, you. Your Warby Parker glasses are waiting for you at home.
You know that expensive watch you always wanted? It only cost a fraction of the price to make.
We thought that was crazy, so we made our own watch company.
We created unique watch designs, launched online at fair prices, developed new styles, shipped to over 160 countries around the world, and created a community. Now, you don't have to overpay for a nice watch.
Instead, join the movement.
Shop now at mvmt.com.
The president's longtime personal lawyer was sentenced to 3 years in federal prison today. Joining us now here live in the studio is Lanny Davis. He's an advisor to Michael Cohen, who until today was also part of Michael Cohen's legal team. Mr. Davis, it's good to have you here. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks, Rachel.
Why until today? You have left, you are no longer a lawyer associated with Michael Cohen.
Well, lawyers have constraints, and the case is over. The sentencing process is completed. Now my media ability to talk and explain and certainly understand Michael Cohen, I can speak much more freely, and I'm now exercising my First Amendment rights.
Okay. You have said in the wake of today's proceedings, and actually heading into today's proceedings, that Mr. Cohen wants to not only to continue to cooperate with the Mueller investigation and continue to speak with prosecutors, but he wants to speak publicly about what he knows about President Trump. What do you mean by that?
I am thinking of John Dean in 1974, whose crimes included very serious obstruction of justice, tampering with witnesses, doing a lot of the evil work in the Nixon White House that he ultimately owned up to. But there was a moment, and he and I have talked about that moment, where he needed to tell the truth about what he had seen and heard, even though he was involving himself in all of those crimes. And that moment will come for Michael Cohen, not before Mr. Mueller does his work and makes his report. But I am certainly hopeful that Michael Cohen will have that moment to tell the American people, as he so eloquently and humbly did today in his statement to the court, not only his regret in taking ownership of all of the things that he did for Donald Trump that he's not proud of, but the truth about what he knows about Donald Trump that led him to what I believe is a genuine change in himself, to change and tell the truth because he found the president, Donald Trump, as dangerous to his family and to the country.
That pivot point for Mr. Cohen, did that relate specifically to the core issues at the heart of the special counsel's investigation? Special counsel prosecutor Jeannie Reed today said in court that Mr. Cohen has provided evidence that's directly related to those core issues, Russia-related issues. Is that part of what made Michael Cohen decide to essentially flip against the president, his concerns on the Russia matter?
First of all, thank you for reminding everyone that Mr. Mueller used those words, core issues. Very important words, and Michael Cohen spoke to them, and they have not been set forth yet. Secondly, there were multiple emotional, personal changes that occurred in Michael Cohen after Donald Trump became president, leading him to call me in long, heartfelt conversations about the changes he was undergoing, the regrets that he had, and it all comes down to a sentence that he said to me. I remember the moment, and I called my law partner to say, I think this is for real. And that was, he recognizes Donald Trump as president was a danger to his family and to the country. And he emphasized as president what he had done before Trump became president, because he never imagined he'd ever be elected president. He felt shame about, and he articulated that. But the notion that this man that he did so much bad things for and defended so many bad things was now president of the United States, showing the mental instability that scared him regarding the safety and welfare, not just of his family, but the country, to me, was the pivotal moment on the telephone that I thought this is for real.
The count that Mr. Cohen pled guilty to last, lying to Congress about the Trump Tower Moscow project. He received a $50,000 fine for that today and 2 months concurrent running with his otherwise 3-year-long sentence. There have been suggestions in the court filings around that charge that Mr. Cohen was in communication with the White House about that testimony before he gave it. The question is, I feel like we're very close to having an answer to the question of whether or not the White House or President Trump specifically advised Michael Cohen to lie to Congress about Trump Tower Moscow. Did Cohen come up with those lies on his own, or did he get advice from the White House telling him that he should lie about that matter?
So I'm dedicated tonight not to answer questions that only Mr. Mueller knows the answers to, and let him give the answers. And then Mr. Cohen, I hope, will be elaborating. But I can answer that Mr. Mueller was very harsh about Mr. Cohen premeditatively publicizing those lies and consulting with the White House, and nobody at the White House told him not to lie.
So Cohen was open with the White House about the fact that his testimony, about the fact of what his testimony was going to be, that it was going to be testimony that is a lie, and the White House didn't say, don't do it.
Correct. And okay. Mr. Mueller is the one who said those words when he said premeditated, and he publicized the remarks to Congress that were lies about the Moscow, the timing of the communication with high officials.
The president had to know those were false. He knew that Cohen was going to say it, and he didn't correct it.
He released his testimony, according to Mr. Mueller, before he gave it. At the same time, he was talking to the White House, and nobody in the White House said, that's not true, don't lie.
Cover-up often worse than the crime.
Yes.
Lanny Davis, who until today was a lawyer associated with Michael Cohen, has now left the legal team but continues to speak with Mr. Cohen. I imagine will be involved in a sort of a spokesman role going forward, perhaps?
You can see by my gray hair, I'm an advisor.
Advisor.
And a friend.
Lanny Davis, thank you for coming in.
Thank you,
Much
Rachel.
appreciated. All right, much to come. Stay with us.